It is literally impossible to wake up every day, do all the right things and get the wrong results. And I think when we figure that out and we accept that as a rule in life, it takes the excuses that we typically use off the table. That is the definition of coachable. Are you taking what you're gathering and implementing it to get results? Because saying you understand, being able to grasp the concept, but not putting it into action is another form of not being coachable. There are exceptions to everything, but people that haven't actually been where you're going in some way, shape, or form, it's very difficult for them to guide you through some of the things that happen because it's hard for them to put themselves in your shoes, right? So there's a lot of coaches out there that have not ever owned a business or dealt with an employee issue or whatever. And if that's not what you're looking for, then that's okay, right? You check that box and you move on. But if you're looking for someone that's going to be there through thick and thin, they either have to be massively educated or massively experienced in those areas that they're going to guide you through.
Hey, what's up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery. Today, we're with Mr. Brian Hess. Brian, what's up, brother?
What's happening, man? Good to be here with you, bro.
Yeah, man. Good to have you. And we know each other from Clubhouse, ironically, right? And met a lot of people from Clubhouse recently. Have you gone to any of those meetups yet? Like meeting people in person?
I haven't, man. I've had scheduling conflicts every time there was one going on, but yeah, it was funny. You were on my radar prior to Clubhouse, but I think Clubhouse allows you to kind of take things to another level, right? Like you actually get to know people differently through audio conversations than you ever would through social channels, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, I've had the opportunity to the Breakfast with Champions did an event, and I just went out, hung out with Tim Story and a few others, Tony Rodriguez, some other guys from Clubhouse, and it's Alpha 6. I had lunch with him. It's almost like you know him. It's weird. It's wild. Like you never met him in real person, but when you meet him, you're like, hey, what's up, buddy? Like Alpha and I were just like old buds. It was weird. It was wild.
Yeah, that's how it works, man. And hopefully most of the time when you meet somebody in person, it's going to be exactly what you expected. There are the exceptions every once in a while, right? That you meet someone in person, you're like, wait a minute, dude, this isn't quite what I met this person on Facebook or Instagram or in this case, Clubhouse. But for the most part, man, almost everybody that I've met, I had Glenn speak at my event in June, and I'd never met him in person, bro. Like we've known each other for 3 years, right? And I'd never met him in person. And when we met, it was like we'd known each other, forever, nothing unusual, all normal, so it's awesome that we have those platforms to have that kind of opportunity.
It's wild because I don't remember any time in my life where I've met somebody on a platform. Well, that's actually not true. Years ago, there was like the dating site. So I guess there has been that, but I've never went to a meetup from Facebook or anything like that. So it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, very cool.
All right. So that said, you are a podcaster. You have 3 different podcasts. You own a company called the Pavement Group. You're a top Contractor School. And then you have the 3 podcasts, the Perspective Podcast, the Digital Contractor Podcast, and the Pavement Group Podcast. How the heck do you do 3 podcasts, man? One's a ton of work.
Yeah, it is, man. So I started a few years ago on the Perspective Podcast, and that was kind of like every single morning I just, jump on live on Facebook, and then that syndicates over to podcasts and just kind of share my thoughts. And where that came from was just, my wanting to help people start their days off more positive, where I grew up, everybody got up, poured their coffee and sat in front of the news. And I couldn't accept that as a standard of life in the way that people should start their mornings. And so I thought to myself, man, I got a lot to say. I've learned a lot in my life. I know people that can share their experiences. So I'm going to start this podcast and hopefully be able to have people start their day off with a little perspective, a little motivation, little education, things like that can help them be able to just get off to a better start, And I think that how how we get off to that start in the morning really dictates our life. And then, on the other side of things, the Digital Contractor podcast is mostly focused on digital marketing. So I'm a partner in a digital marketing company called Lead Revenue, focused on helping contractors. And so we want to help through that podcast be able to give people the information necessary to get the contractor space out of the 1800s and into the 21st century here. So, and then, the Pavement Group, same thing. We're just trying to share information that helps facility managers, property managers, and other contractors.
So do you consider yourself a marketing guy? Is that what you do? Or what do you do ultimately? How do you help all these companies?
It's funny, man. I never considered myself a marketer. I was always a sales guy, career salesperson, sales leader. But, I think it kind of happened without anybody knowing, like sales became marketing, right? I think the world of digital really made that pivot. The world of social media really helped us all make that pivot to where, if you're a good salesperson, you probably are a good marketer in general. And then it's just a matter of gaining the education and skills necessary to actually be able to call yourself a marketer. I would comfortably be able to say that I'm a pretty solid marketer at this point. I've put in enough hours and done enough research and spent enough money, investing into marketing to be able to learn what works and what doesn't. And so I never really thought of myself that way until the last few years here, but fair enough to say that at this point, I think.
Man, there's so many directions we could go with this conversation today. So what you said, I mean, I've always been a sales guy. I started out 36 years ago on the phones, but I never really focused enough energy on the marketing side. So that's how I feel like I hit a ceiling of, you can physically only sell so much yourself. And then it's like, okay, prospecting is great. Don't get me wrong. You always bring in a new business, but it can be tiring. And so a year ago, I joined the Genius Network because I really year ago. And the last 2 years, I focused on marketing, and it's really helped me to be able to propel now through that ceiling to that next level. So that's why I asked you about marketing with everything you're doing.
Yeah, it's incredible, man. It is the secret sauce in today's world, right? And I'm sure you feel the same. I'd be interested to hear your feedback, but when I figured out marketing, specifically social media and digital, the world of Google and how to, kind of get people to your website, how to get their information, and then how to be able to actually turn those leads into real business, I literally thought to myself, like, dude, if I would have known this 10 years sooner, right? Like the amount of work that it took, like I could have put my effort, the massive amount of effort that I put in sales would have produced results that are multiples over what I was getting, right? Because, I think that is one of the things that salespeople, and it was hard. I'm sure it was hard for you to like evolve out of that because you're not necessarily always in control of it. But the biggest thing that I found in digital marketing is, when I would sell a bunch of stuff, then I would have to like actually deal with the sales, right? Like, in our case in construction, project manage all those deals, get them to the finish line. And so there was always kind of an up and down. There was a sales cycle, right? There was a little ripple in the sales results. And digital marketing has helped, drive out those dips, right? Either lessen or eliminate those dips to where there's always activity coming in, regardless of whether your salespeople are always working or not, right? Like whether they're actively selling. And so that's kind of the magic of marketing that I've found. And have you found it difficult to make the shift from that sales mind to the marketing mind?
Initially, because a big part of it for me comes from my childhood, just the childhood of growing up super poor and not having money. So it was hard for me to spend money. It was easy for me to pick up the phone and make calls, but spending money was different. So, I found myself, in my low 30s, having a good sized pile of money and sitting in a bank for someone that's 30, but not doing anything except earning a 0.02% interest. You know what I mean? Actually losing money if you think about it. So I had to learn to start, investing, and that's what it's all about, is investing. And yeah, the last couple years, I've made some investments in myself, like writing a check for Genius Network and some other things like that have helped me kind of have that breakthrough. And yeah, I love marketing now, and I see the value. I wish, like you said, 10 years ago, if someone would have taught me this, great. I joined a real estate team in 2002. They said, okay, we call for sale by owners. Here's the grab the newspaper, grab a highlighter, highlight the ads. And that's what I learned. And that's what I did for 6 years before I tried something else, and I was successful with it, man. I was successful with it, but hey, you know what? That's why we're always growing and evolving, right?
No question, man.
I do want to jump to a quote that's here. And for everybody listening, go check out Brian's bio. If you just go to the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube, just go to the description. You can see Brian's bio, because there's a lot of really good stuff there. It talks of, his all his achievements and all the things he's done, which is just tons and tons. I want to touch on this quote. You said, it's impossible to wake up every day doing the right things and get the wrong results. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite quotes. One of the first clients that I worked with in Top Contractor School, I was coaching him, business owner, young guy, has become one of my best friends. And I said that one day when I was coaching him. We were making a shift in his company, and he was like, well, how do I know that this is going to work? And I said, it's real simple, man. You cannot, it's absolutely impossible to wake up every single day, do all the right things, right? You show up, you do those things that have worked for other people, and for all intents and purposes, it's going to produce the right result. And he actually had it made for me in a sign that hangs on my office wall that has that quote on it. And so it's one of those things that I just believe in at my core. Like, if you wake up every single day and you're doing the right things, you're putting in the work, you're seeking out information and implementing that information from the right people, and you generally are driven by a code of ethics and values and principles that are solid, it's impossible for you not to win. And I think that a lot of people, use that as an excuse, well, I'm not winning, but I'm doing it's not, there's something missing, right? You're not doing something. It is literally impossible to wake up every day, do all the right things, and get the wrong results. And I think when we figure that out and we accept that as a rule in life, it takes the excuses that we typically use off the table. And when you take those excuses off the table, all that's left is your daily disciplines, your daily action, and doing the right things often enough to get that result that you're looking for. And so for me, that quote has been kind of a way of life, right? It's like, wake up every day, do as many of the right things as you can possibly squeeze into a day. And eventually you're going to see results, and then you're going to see multiples of the same results if you just keep going.
So a lot of people listening right now, this was going to be a conversation on coaching and we will get into it. But I guarantee you people listening now are like, okay, well, what are the right things? So we have to answer that question. Like, so talk to us. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, I love that, man. I think, there's a few grounding things in my life that are non-negotiables, right? Like those things that I have to do every day to feel like I'm getting ahead. And that is, number one, wake up early. That is, I've studied so many people that are successful, and every single one of them almost wakes up early. There's a few exceptions, but almost every single one of them wakes up early. And for me, to give people the motivation to want to wake up early, that is the time that I consider my own, right? So from 4:30 in the morning when I wake up until probably 7 o'clock, right? 7:30, I'm not really getting bothered much. And so that is like my own time to get in whatever I need, to go to the gym, to read scripture, to read books, listen to audiobooks, things like that. So it's what you do before you start your day is a huge indicator of exactly how the day is going to go. And, I like to say, you have to play your life on offense, not defense. So planning out, being organized and intentional about what you do. And that includes creating that routine in the morning, right? And then, the other thing that I do is every single week before I start the week, on Sunday evening for me, I sit down and I look at what's coming, and I fill out, my planner for the week. I make sure all those appointments are set. I'll follow up with the ones that I've got coming up on Monday or whatever it is to make sure that they're good. But I am very intentional and offensive about my time. And so I think that is really important. The other thing I would say is that be productive, don't be busy. Actually get things done and pay attention to the results that you're getting, not necessarily how many hours you're working. Because I think in our country right now, it's like a badge of honor to work 1,000,000 hours. And that is not the only answer. It is certainly a factor, but I know a lot of people, man, that work a lot of hours that don't get much done. And, so it is critical for you to be honest with yourself about, if you're at work for 10 hours a day, how can you be more productive, right? How can you get 8, 9, 9.5 hours out of 10 of actual productivity? And when you figure that out and you start to really be honest with yourself about how much time you're wasting, saying no to things that aren't serving you or aren't serving your dreams, I think you're on the right track there, and of course there are things that happen that we can't predict, and those put us in defense, right? But it's how quick after those things happen can you get back on offense. And I think that is a lot of the right things. And based on everybody's businesses, the routine, the disciplines, what you do is going to look a little bit different. But for the most part, man, it is very similar. Whether you're in construction or real estate or automotive sales or whatever it may be, you're gonna see a lot of the same exact routines and the same exact disciplines in those successful people.
Yeah, I would agree. Most successful people have a morning routine. They wake up early, and and as a father, I appreciate that time as well. During, and kids are going back to school soon, so they will be getting up early. So it'll be a little chaotic, but they're getting up early is 7. My getting up early is 4:30, like you. So it definitely gives you that time to be by yourself. So I love that. I do want to shift gears into coaching, and for people that are more interested in Brian in his routine, what's the best way, Brian, for people to contact you or learn more about you?
Yeah. So my handle on all social platforms is Real Brian Hess, Brian with an I. And so you can find me on any of those. You can go to realbrianhess.com and connect with me there. But yeah, just shoot me a DM, and happy to help anybody and point anybody in the right direction, or point them to the right resources or things that I listen to or whatever.
Yeah. I always, one of the reasons I reach out to you, because your message has been very clear, concise, and thought provocative, provoking, I guess, right? That's the word I'm looking for. Provocative. I don't think that's real. I'm making up words, brother, as we go. But anyway, I want to shift gears though, because it was the coaching call. I think it was the second time I reached out to you, but we talked about coaching, and you had talked about a coach versus a consultant, or how to find a coach. And I happen to be trained as a coach, and I shared this. Like, I went through, Keller Williams has a system and maps. I went 3 years training to be a coach. So I understand that. I want to go back to that conversation though. First off, what's important in your mind about coaching? I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on coaching.
Well, I think, number one, I am too, as you mentioned, Top Contractor School. I've got, a couple hundred people in those programs. And so, for me, I think first and foremost, it's important to know that, coaching has made a huge difference in my life. And so, having that be the case, having that impact made on me, it's something that I take seriously, right? It's something that I really, I don't want to say I'm like, I kind of police that space, but I really do try to, keep an eye on it, because I think that, as you said, we were talking before we got on here, there's so many people out there offering what they call coaching. And I think it's really important for people to understand, what that looks like, what a coach looks like, what a consultant looks like, and what their real, true results that they're trying to get for you, what that looks like. How do you select them? And how do you make sure that you're selecting a person that is a good fit for you? Because I think, just so I'm clear here, somebody can be a great coach and not be a great coach for you. And that is one of those things that I think, as I've gotten older, I've realized that, like, I'm not so quick to go and, grab someone, like, when I'm really impressed by them, because I think there's subconsciously an authority thing that when we get around people that we view in a different light, we view maybe further ahead in life, we tend to be drawn to them where we want to get involved, right? Like we want, man, if I could get whatever they know that I don't know, I could be where they are. And it's just not always the case, right? So I think that the first tip I would give is, to make sure that you actually take the time to get to know these people, right? And I think when I talked about this on Clubhouse, I used the word vet them, right? Like make sure that you're actually, really looking into them and spending enough time with them that you can make an honest decision. Because I think what happens a lot of times is that people, there's a sales approach to this, that people want to push, right, for someone to make a decision quickly, and you're not given that opportunity to really get comfortable. And so I think that, from my standpoint, when I'm hiring a coach, I'm really looking for a long-term deal, right? Not that I don't ever do anything that's like, hey, I need to know this one thing, and so I'm going to sign up for this program kind of thing. But if I'm looking for a coach, like I'm in it for the long haul. Like I view them as like a business partner, right? Where I'm really looking for somebody that is going to keep growing. They're investing into themselves, both, by reading books and researching and learning and advancing. But they're a person that I can grow with, right? I'm never going to outgrow them. That's not what I'm looking for. But I think it's really important for people out there to realize, coach versus consultant. A coach is going to be more of a guide, like more of a person that's, understanding your life, understanding the dynamics of what's going on, like really getting a good 360-degree perspective of what you've got going on personally, professionally, all that kind of stuff. And they're going to care about that stuff. Whereas a consultant, to me, is more of a tactical, like I've got the system, I'm going to help you install this system, right? A business consultant is really designed from an operations standpoint or a systematic standpoint to be able to go and install things. And when it comes down to both of those, I think it is very important for us to understand, what has this person actually done? What have they produced? This is the other thing that kind of drives me crazy in today's world. And there are exceptions to everything, but people that haven't actually been where you're going in some way, shape, or form, it's very difficult for them to guide you through some of the things that happen, because it's hard for them to put themselves in your shoes, right? So like there's a lot of coaches out there that have not ever owned a business or dealt with an employee issue or whatever. And if that's not what you're looking for, then that's okay, right? You check that box and you move on. But if you're looking for someone that's going to be there through thick and thin, they either have to be massively educated or massively experienced in those areas that they're going to guide you through. And, it's one of those things, and we've talked about this, that there's so much wrong in the space that people tend to not trust up front. And it's a shame, right? Because as I just said, coaching has changed my life, right? Having the right people to advise me has absolutely changed my life on every level. And I want people to be able to experience that. But I also want people to be able to experience that without the fear or doubt or anxiety of, did I just write somebody a check for $5,000 or $10,000 that doesn't actually know what they're doing?
Yeah. A lot of good stuff there, man. I have some notes I'm looking at. So I think about myself when it comes to coaching and some of the coaches I've hired throughout, and I've had different coaches in different seasons of my life. My first coach was John Alexandrov. God rest his soul. He helped me go from working 80 hours a week to, hating real estate to working 45 to 50 in 2 years and making more money by putting systems and good people in place and things like that. Right. And then I had Sean Kukoska, who helped me with, training and getting up on stages and things like that. And he was just a really good guy that seemed to care. And then I had Matt Teeter, who was like a drill sergeant. And although everybody hated his guts, the guy got results because he was legit. Like, if you don't do what I tell you to F and do, you're not my client anymore. Like he would fire you if you didn't hit your goal. And for me, whatever reason, that worked for me. I don't know if it would have worked earlier, but at that time, it's the first time in my life I was a team leader for Keller Williams running 3 offices. It's the first time in my life I hit my goal every month for 13 months straight until I resigned from the TL role. I've never hit a goal 13 months straight, ever. And it was Matt Teeter. So I have to acknowledge him. Sometimes I thought the guy could care less about me, but he cared about the goal. And I swear to God, I feel like sometimes he was more concerned about his record as a coach of, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to get into all that.
You took the words right out of my mouth, man. That was my guess, is that, and that is something that matters, for me as a coach. Like, if you're not going to do the work, I'm not interested, like that might sound harsh, but like, I want to work with people that I can get results with, right? If I'm going to spend my time and I'm going to invest into you, I want people that take it serious, that show up, that it's not about money, man. The money is a part of that game. You have to invest to get, but it's not about you can't buy your way out of laziness, man. And at the end of the day, you can have as many coaches as you want. You're not going to be successful if you don't put in the work. And so for me, that's been a big deal. In Top Contractor School, we have an inner circle program, and that is leaders and owners only in construction. And so I am heavy, man, on the values and the principles and the way that people operate and how they're responding to the coaching and the guidance. Are they implementing? Are they getting results? And we don't have anybody in that group, man, that's not winning at a massive level. And it comes down to, again, and I mentioned this when I was talking about this on Clubhouse, like, you have to share the same values as your coach. Like, and I guarantee if you went back to that guy and asked him, he would say, I saw fire in you that you didn't recognize in yourself, maybe. Right. And so that's, for me, I can see that in people, and I know I can get that out of them. I know I can light a fire in them that burns hotter than what they can catch themselves. Right.
Yeah.
But it takes a special person to be able to actually act on that. Right. Because the wrong person's going to totally go the wrong way from that. But the right person, man, it's going to change their life in ways that they can't even grasp, and they don't even know until it happens. Like, dude, I've got guys in the program that literally made more money by June of this year than they made all of last year. Like, there was one guy that called me, said, dude, I did my mid-year accounting and I literally had to have the accountant run it again because I thought it was wrong. And it's the result of doing the right things over and over and over again. Right. And then again, in our case, it's being around a community of people that are also doing the right things. And so that's another version of coaching, right? If somebody has a group that you can be part of, and that group's going to help you level up, well, that creates a standard. If you're naturally competitive, you certainly don't want to be the last person on the scorecard, right?
Yeah.
And so within that group, it just drives everyone to set bigger goals, to motivate their teams more, right? You get on there and you listen to people's results. There was a call this year, man, where we're going through the results and I'm like, dude, I better get it moving. Like, there was a couple people in the group that were crushing our results at the Pavement group. And I'm like, I better get it moving, man, or the student's going to whoop up on the teacher, man. We can't have that happening. But that is a natural thing for people to experience when they're within a group of people like that. Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, sometimes I felt like Matt was more concerned about him not hitting his numbers, me not helping him hit his numbers. Then anyway, it doesn't matter because it's kind of like Tim Grover, right? We talked about that before. Tim Grover pushed hard and he got the result. So how you get the result, I guess in the end, if somebody's coachable, and that I want to go to that quickly. And then I want to wrap up with one final question, which is going to be, I want you to give 3 tips for somebody if they're looking to hire a coach, the 3 top tips. But I want to go to coachability first, because I believe that most people are not coachable. And I think people can become coachable, Brian, and I think people think they're coachable, but most aren't. What do you thought? What do you think when I say that?
I'm gonna answer it like this. I think that all of us are what I'll refer to as honest liars. So we're honest people and we operate with integrity. We do the right thing, but we lie to ourselves. And what most people need to understand is until you start telling yourself the truth and until you're comfortable, letting it all out there in full transparency to someone, you are not coachable at the level that you can get the results that you're capable of. And that is one of the things that I've learned over the years of doing this is, until you can get someone comfortable with you enough to tell you the most of the truth that they're capable of at that particular time in their life, that is a massive piece of, to your point, what you call coachability. And I think, a lot of people think they're coachable, right? Or they'll say, no, I can take it, or no, I can implement, or no. But the responsibility of hiring a coach and using your guy, Matt, as an example, Matt's passion was taking his knowledge, giving it to you and ensuring it was implemented. And that is a major motivator for a natural gifted coach. They don't want somebody playing on their team that's not going to execute, that's not actually coachable, because that at the end of it, that is the definition of coachable. Are you taking what you're gathering and implementing it to get results? Because saying you understand, being able to grasp the concept, but not putting it into action is another form of not being coachable, right? Not taking action on the things that you learn. It's also the reason why I challenge when people have you'll go to self-development events and you see the same people over there at every single event. You see them on Instagram, you see them on Facebook, they're at everything. Well, how the hell are you implementing what you're learning? So you're not actually coachable. You just want to feel good by being at the event. And there's a big difference. And the reason why so many people don't get results is they're always looking for the next thing, the shiny object syndrome. Man, if I could just get one more thing, it would make it easier. Easier is not the way. Find the right person, and we'll get into the 3 tips of how to find that person. Find the right person that's going to guide you and go all in on the things that they tell you to do. If they tell you to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, it doesn't mean 4:29. It doesn't mean 4:31. If they tell you to tie your shoes a certain way, tie your shoes the way that they tell you to. There are secrets and clues in places that you have no idea that you may downplay. And if you don't execute the recipe correctly, don't be surprised when the final product doesn't taste the same. And that is when it comes to being coachable, you got to be all in.
Yeah, 100%. Listening to you, and I like to take notes, and I'm referring to my notes. I think, and it this clicked as I was listening to you. I feel like a good coach is going to pull some of that stuff out of you. Maybe even if you're not coachable, if you have the right coach and you trust the coach, maybe they can pull some of that stuff out. What do you think about that?
Oh, I agree 100%. If you have a coach that isn't pulling things out of you, you don't have the right coach. That is probably a person that, again, reads books, is educated, but has never been in your shoes, is not relatable. Maybe you don't share the same values. Anybody that has the same values as you, that has a similar vision as you, they're going to see things. We are naturally, not self-confident. Yeah. And so what people are able to see in us versus what we see in ourselves is always different. And most likely that coach, especially if they're a great coach, they're going to see the things in you that you don't see in yourself. And they're 100% going to be able to pull those things out that naturally. That's how good coaches get results pretty quick, because they're able to see those gaps that you can't see and plug right into them. And then boom, you're off to the race. You're like, dude, I didn't really change that much. Well, that's how it works, man. A couple dials when you have a good foundation and you are operating from the same set of values, and you can go execute on the things that they're telling you without hesitancy. Well, you're going to get results pretty quick.
Yeah, I feel it's. I'm thinking back to Matt now, and I would still like to have Matt as a coach. To be honest with you, numbers. It was for him. It was all about the numbers. Like, send me the numbers. I need to see the numbers. Numbers don't lie, man. Right?
If you don't know your numbers, you don't know anything.
That's it. Give me those numbers, man. All right, awesome. So give us what are the 3 tips? Someone listening to this, okay, I'm ready. Want to hire a coach? What would you tell them? The 3 biggest tips on finding the right coach?
I would say number 1, take your time, right? Like, take your time, make sure they're the right person. You know, sometimes you have to slow down to speed up, you know, hiring the first coach that you meet with because you're excited and they have something to offer you. Go out there and actually think about what it is that you need and who it is that's the best fit. And again, it's not just how much money they have or what they've built in business. They have to share the same values as you. So that would be number 2 is, you know, make sure that, you know, take your time as number 1. The second one is make sure they share the same values as you, that really from the alignment of how you want to live your life. An example would be, we're both fathers. You know, I am careful about what content I consume and where I get certain parts of my advice from, because to understand life balance all the way around, I have to be getting advice from people that understand that component of it. And so I am in the RTA syndicate. I look up to Ed Milet a lot. He's one of my mentors. You know, that's a person that I really take a lot of advisement from. John Maxwell. I'm not in his coaching program, but I've read all of his books. I consider him a mentor because I have a lot of alignment on the family aspect, that kind of thing. And so you have to be very diligent about what it is that you want and how you want that to be implemented. Now, on the other side of things, I have an advisor in my life that doesn't have children yet. And he's one of the most valuable people that I have in my entire life. I consider him like family. But making sure that you share the same values, that where they're trying to go actually lines up with where you're trying to go. And the third thing, last but not least, is qualify them, man. Like, make sure that their daily disciplines, like, what are they actually doing? Because again, in the world of social media, somebody can look qualified and not be qualified at all. Have they created real success? Have they had challenges? What has their business experience been? Is their pricing in line with their experience? You know, I've seen a lot of coaches out there that literally close people by having an insane price. And so people naturally think, well, it's expensive, it must be worth it, right? They're literally drawn to it. It's a subconscious thing that we all do. Like, we want to be with those people that cost the most in some cases, right? So making sure that you are qualifying them in real life experience, right? And what have they actually done? Have they coached other people to the place that you're trying to go to? Because you don't want to be getting into a situation where somebody's learning with you as you go, right? You want to be in a place where somebody knows the roadmap and they're giving you shortcuts to help you be able to get there faster, right? You know, there are hacks. I say there's no shortcuts in life, but there are things that can make you go faster by learning from someone else's experience. That is what coaching is all about, right? It's about being able to get those tips, get those things, get those marketing methods, get those sales methods that you don't currently have access to. Well, if you pay for that, you can get 5 years worth of results in 6 months if you just get the right advice.
Yeah, that is called a shortcut. That's what we call that.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. So the 3s, number 1 is going to be, don't rush it, right? Take your time. Number 2 is going to be alignment. Find somebody that's in alignment. And the 3rd is going to be, make sure that you qualify them and you make sure they really are what they say they are. And I would do testimonials, find testimonials, even talk to some of their other clients, look at their results, things like that. Do your homework.
Yep. Yeah, I think those are the 3 keys, man. I really believe that. And I think if people did that and they actually listened and they weren't too quick to pull the trigger, they would be a lot happier and they would be able to sniff out. And if something doesn't feel right, man, there's a reason. Follow your gut.
Awesome.
Every mistake I've ever made, man, I've probably looked back and blew through a red light, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Amen. All right. Well, tell us how, again, we get in touch with you. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you, Brian?
Real Brian Hess on any social platform. I'm probably most active on Instagram. I've been doing a lot on LinkedIn lately, and my podcast is every morning at 8 o'clock Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. And realbrianhess.com is my website. And if you want to call me or text me, you can do that too, 954-789-2394.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I'll have to pop onto your podcast one of these mornings to Instagram, and we can promote this a little bit before it goes out.
Sounds good, brother.
Yeah, man.
Sounds
awesome.
Good.
Well, I appreciate you, man. This was awesome. Thank you. And yeah, appreciate your time today, man.
That was great, brother. Appreciate you too, man.